and here we are with my second YouTube video. Welcome back. And for those of you that have already subscribed, thank you so much. I super appreciate that support. So for my girl Nicole here today, she wanted to be a bit icier white blonde. So we're going to take her a bit lighter. She's like a level 8.5 to a 9 in some areas. So we really want to try to get her to a 10. And anytime you are overlapping some previously lightened blonde, whether you're using Olaplex or not, which I am always using in my lightener, you are going to risk breakage or damage. So I always prep these kinds of clients that want to kind of push it a little more to go brighter, to be prepared to trim. You know, I always prep them for at least a couple of inches and maybe going a bit shorter on some layers. And if your client is weary of taking off some length, you can always do a test strand just so you can kind of pull on that hair strand and see how far that stretches on those ends, and then you can show them exactly how much they're going to have to take off. So as you can see here, I am doing some gray coverage and I am using Joico LumiShine in Permanent. I believe this was 7NA with a bit of 5 NWB, I believe it is. Okay, so here is the thing about doing gray coverage at the root while doing any type of lightening. Whenever you're overlapping lightener into any kind of permanent or demi color that you may put at that base, it's going to create a warm band essentially, and not necessarily even just a band, but it's going to create warmth in that area. Whenever lightener is trying to break through any kind of color, that's just what's going to happen. So when I have clients that typically like to be more highlighted throughout the base to blend their grays, and then they come in and they want to go lighter throughout the ends, I tell them that if they want to be lighter throughout the ends, they're going to kind of have to like forfeit the gray blending with highlights in that appointment, because it's just going to create too much of a mess with that permanent color and that lightener throughout the roots. So in order for me to not have to do so much correction of warmth at the bowl, I'd rather just have them be okay with a more rooty look while going brighter on the ends, because then I can just kind of feather that lightener up into the roots instead of taking it all the way. Now, either way, we're still touching lightener to color, so we're gonna get warmth regardless, but it's just gonna be a bit easier this way to deal with whenever you're toning it. And fun fact, if you don't already know, when you touch lightener to color, it turns like a violety pinky tone, and that's just the chemical reaction of lightener trying to break through. Okay, so throughout this application of going a level to a level and a half lighter, we're just going to take slices all the way throughout. So we're going to still have some leave out, so we still have a bit of dimension. Now, when I lay my foils flat like this, instead of folding them up like the rest of them, it's because the sections are thicker there, and I don't want to fold it because I don't want to disrupt the lift, because it will disrupt the saturation. And we are going to be teasing mostly throughout this whole application because this is going to help us with some blend. And a fun fact about me, majority 99.99999% of the time I am going for coverage. So you will probably always see me do slices, but they are fine slices. So they could pass as baby weaves sometimes, but slices equal coverage, okay? Slice, 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 because when you tone and you're rooting, that's where all of the blending and the magic happens. And I am using Schwarzkopf Blonde Me in 7 volume with Olaplex. Blonde Me has a built-in bond builder, so that matched paired with the Olaplex is just amazing in my opinion. I feel like my clients' hair always feels softer after they leave compared to when they come in. And majority of the time, even when I think that like we might be pushing it and might risk some breakage with the level of blonde that we're going for, it will like shock me majority of the time. I'll be like, wow, nothing happened. We didn't get any breakage. And Nicole is a great example of this, but she just has that texture that's very coarse and very wiry in a sense. So like sometimes it can fool you into thinking that it's just gonna break off like crazy, but it's actually pretty strong. You know, one of the real reasons I specialize mostly in blondes is because I am a stylist that's not afraid of risk. It's very common for clients to be rejected because the stylist is too afraid to damage their hair by pushing it to a specific level. And I totally get that because I used to be that way myself. And then the hair gods brought down bond builders upon us, and it just changed the whole blonding game behind the chair. And you know, you attract the type of work that you put out there. And there's a reason that I do have tons of blonde clients coming to me because they trust me with their blonde. And what's really funny is people on TikTok love to come for me and ask me why I overlap my blondes. And they like to assume when you're pushing a level 8, 9 to a level 10 or maybe 11 that you're just out here breaking everyone's hair off. But in reality, I have clients often that will leave for an extended period of time and then come back to me and say that their hair was never as healthy as it was with me. Just saying. When clients want to go for white platinum blonde or just platinum blonde in general, especially clients that are naturally darker, they should know the risk that goes into that. And if they don't, then you need to be educating them. And remember, if you are scared, just always do a test strand. That test strand will never fail you. So I am doing the gray coverage as we go on these side sections because I want to get some finer, heavier sections towards that hairline just to help those grays blend in even more as they grow back out. And I did not want to have to mess with any annoying warmth in that area. So I wanted to leave the gray coverage away from that hairline. And something you will always see me do is combing through my sections because I am extremely OCD about saturation, and I like to ensure that every single strand is saturated. And I highly recommend taking the extra 2.5 seconds to do it because you might be amazed the difference that it makes. And in case you are interested, these are Fermar foils. One thing I love about Fermar is that they make all of their cutesy foils and their rolls because I honestly prefer rolls over pop-up foils because my clients have all different types of hair lengths, and like majority of the time those pop-up lengths on those foils are not gonna work for me. So I like to be able to customize the length of my foil, and it's just a quick grab, pull, and tear. And what I'm gonna do on these side sections is just work my way up until I create a mini little skinny little mohawk section at the top. So I'm just gonna keep working my way up through this side with my slices, and then I'm gonna jump to the other side and do it the exact same way until again I meet that little slim mohawk. And right here we're gonna do finer back-to-back sections again because her gray is heavier right here, so I just want it to blend nicer as that gray starts to grow back in. And at this front hairline area, I honestly could do anywhere from like 2 to 10 plus foils. It just depends on what the client wants. So if they want like a bold, heavy face frame highlight, that's when I'm gonna do heavy back to back to back. But if it's something that's going to be more subtle, I'm typically just doing like 2 to 4. And it's super important that you're taking those finer sections at this face frame area because you do not want to have uneven, ugly lift right at the front of the face. So now we have this beautiful halo of foils surrounding us, beautiful Easter pastel foils. So we are just going to finish up this skinny mini mohawk section with slices all the way throughout, and then still doing our gray coverage. And I do this with all of my applications. That very last foil that's going to meet my front hairline foils at the front, is always going to be a teasy light. So there's not going to be any hair in between because that's just going to give us even bolder brightness up there. And once we finish our foil application, I let it process under a towel for about 10 to 15 minutes. And then I will pop it under some super low heat for another 10 to 15 minutes, just checking it about every 5 minutes. The most time I will typically process my foils is about 40 minutes, and that's just depending on the client. And yes, all manufacturer instructions will tell you not to process under heat, but I promise when you know the rules, you can break them. So at the bowl, I am typically going to shampoo with either some type of clarifying shampoo, or I'll just do a regular moisturizing shampoo, or a lot of the times I will do Fanola, no orange or no yellow, just at the roots for a little bit of pre-tone. Fanola is powerful, so if you have those level 9-10 ends, I do not recommend putting it on the ends because then you're gonna have like an overtone before your actual tone. So for this, I used Redken Shades EQ 8VB 9P and a tiny bit of 9AA for balance, and the AA in Shades EQ stands for papaya, which is orange. It's not double ash. And then I used half an ounce of clear just so I could process fully without worrying about overtone, especially when you're using 8VB. But I love the VB because it gives it a very like more icier silvery hue, but you definitely want to use some clear because it is strong. So at these roots, we are doing Joico Lumi Shine with 6A and a tiny bit of 6NB. And a hot tip, you can absolutely intermix different brands when toning as long as they are the same. As in Shades EQ and Joico Lumi Shine are both demis and they're both liquids. So it's not gonna be an issue if you intermix them. So you wanna apply that root toner first, and you wanna just take it over that warm area at the base and then over those highlight demarcation lines. And here we're gonna leave out her little face frame piece, and we're gonna apply the ends toner first and then do the root toner over top just to create a little bit of a shadow. So it's a smoother transition. The key to not getting any smudging or dark spots from your root application to those ends is a good detangling brush. And I love to use the wet brush for this. Just make sure you brush through thoroughly, and if you need to brush every 5 minutes for security, then by all means do that. I process for 15 to 20 minutes, and this is our finished look. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and let me know what you'd like to see in the comments down below.